Good afternoon, everybody.
Yes. Good afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah, Professor Mike, the floor is yours.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
good afternoon, everyone. We are back here again. Yeah, for today. Um, we are going to study
Good afternoon,
disinfection.
everyone. We are back here again. Professor Mike, it looks like we're having an echo from one of your devices. You mind turning off all the way down the computer?
Yeah. It should be fine now. Is it fine now?
I think so, yes. What about the
Yeah.
microphone? Turn off the microphone, both the microphone
Uh,
and the speaker.
it should, okay.
Okay. Um,
Oh, I think I see what you mean. It's only happening today. Yeah. Is it fine now? Hello, can everyone hear me now?
yes, it's perfect. Yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So today we shall be dealing with disinfection. Disinfection. And it's very, very important when you are working in sterile processing, department. We should be able to reprocess our medical, devices. Disinfection is very interesting. But we are going to learn a lot of things, especially the guiding principle is what we call the Spalding classification. But when we get there, we'll talk about that. Um, so disinfection in healthcare or in healthcare facilities. Now, the next thing is, so, well, I think we have quite a number of students in the class. Will somebody volunteer to read the first paragraph, what we see on the screen for me? Will someone volunteer? Any volunteer? I think we have about 15 people, including myself and our director. Any volunteer? Or should I call names at random? I don't like to do that because maybe it's not. Wow, silence, right?
I'll do it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Introduction to disinfectants and Spalding classification system. Once an item is cleaned, okay, should I use we or central service?
Yeah, anyone, just yes or I mean anything because we cannot see the screen. So,
Okay, so once an item is cleaned, central service technicians must determine whether it is safe for use or requires further processing. If additional processing is needed, they must decide between sterilization or disinfection, select the appropriate method, and apply it effectively. Introduction to disinfectants. The Spalding classification system is widely used framework for selecting disinfectants based on the level of disinfection required.
okay, yeah, pause there. Yeah, may I know who is speaking? I'm sorry, I didn't even see your name. What's your name?
Party.
Pat. Okay, thank you. Yeah, Pat. Thanks for that. Contribution now. So the first paragraph, let me call it paragraph that she has read. Um, we reprocess instruments. We already know that when instruments arrive, we already know that when instruments arrive, they arrive in the decontamination room. Now that is the dirty area. Once we have cleaned whatever we want to do, well, the next process must begin. The next process must begin. So it could be sterilization or it could be disinfection. Well, there are some things that we don't even disinfect. We don't even sterilize. Yes. So, but then our focus is on sterilization and disinfection. But today it is disinfection. One guiding principle that we use is called the Spalding classification. Spalding classification. And it is widely used among healthcare professionals. It helps us to decide how we are going to reprocess the item. Don't forget, the information for use, IFU, is very critical. But also there is a guiding principle, which is the spoiling. And that's what we are going to use. Now, it is based on how the instrument is going to be used and its potential of harboring bacteria. All right, continue, please, Pat. Yeah, hello, Pat, are you there?
It's Patty actually.
Okay,
So
yeah, can you continue, please?
it categorizes patient care items into three risk-based groups. The first one is critical items. These
Okay,
enter
pause.
sterile areas.
Thank you. Yeah, so now we have critical, well, if you are born in America, I know you disagree that you want me to say semi-critical. Regardless, whether semi-critical or semi-critical, we are talking about the same half. Now, critical items, the semi-critical or the semi-critical. Let's begin with the critical items. Now, these items, they enter the sterile areas of the body. When we say sterile areas, we're talking about the bloodstream and then the vascular system. These are the most. Let me help you guys to understand. The mouth is on the sterile area. Why? Because we open our mouth, we talk, we just buy banana from the street, we just put it there. It's not clean. It's not sterile. When we say sterile, we're talking about absence of microbial life. I repeat, when we say sterile or something is sterilized, we are talking about absence of microbial life. Every spore is dead. But bacteria and other things enter our mouth. That is why I'm trying to say that things that enter our mouth is not a sterile area. And that's why I'm trying to explain. We just buy apple from sometimes I go to the shop, the mall or whatever. People buy banana and they begin to eat it right there. Sometimes people want to buy strawberry. They even take one and then they want to, taste it. Just imagine the number of people that touch it. So the mouth is not sterile. So the bloodstream, the vascular areas are the most sterile or are the sterile areas. So any instrument that has knowledge of the sterile field, they must be sterilized. And of course, implants. Thank you, and go on, please, Pat.
Semi-critical items. These come into contact with mucous membranes but do not penetrate sterile body areas. Example, endoscopes, endotracheal tubes. Okay, they require high-level disinfection, which eliminates most microbial organisms except spores.
Sure, thank you. The semi-critical. Let me explain this word. The mucous membrane. They have knowledge with the mucous membrane. When we say mucous membrane, guys, we are talking about the openings on the human body. I just mentioned mouth, the nose, the ears, the vagina, the anus. So any instrument that has knowledge or goes into this area, these areas, these are the openings on the human body. Naturally, they have soft lining on them. So these are examples. When we go deeper, there is something we call vaginal speculum, which I'll be using. In fact, you guys don't know that instrument yet. Yes, yet. But then I will be using it to explain something. Now, at a minimum, instruments that have knowledge of the mucous membrane, the nose, the ears, the mouth, the vagina, the anus, they must receive what we call high-level disinfection as the minimum. If it is possible, depending on the IFU, if it can be sterilized, hooray, that's the good news. If it can be sterilized, but a minimum is high-level disinfection. All right, next one, please. The third one, part.
Non-critical items. These only contact intact skin. Example, crutches, stethoscopes, countertops. Low to immediate level disinfection is usually sufficient.
That's excellent. When you go to see your PCP, your doctor, one of the basic things they do is to check your pressure, where your blood pressure, and also they use the stethoscopes, to see, to hear your heartbeat and those kind of things. Those things touch the the intact skin. Sometimes, if the clothing you are wearing is not all that thick, when I go to see my PCP and in a dress shirt, normally they don't even ask me to take off my dress shirt. They just use the armband, kind of thing around my arms, and then they take my pressure. So you see, the pressure device is not even touching my natural skin. It's only touching the dress shirt, etc. So those are things that touch. Um, if they want to, check your heartbeat or etc. They put whatever on your chest, etc. Sometimes it can be in your singlet or whatever if you have any light. So these things, they receive. Well, they are called so non-critical. Yeah, non-critical because they don't actually have knowledge of the mucous membrane. Neither do they have knowledge of the bloodstream or the sterile areas of the human body. All right, next slide, please. As you guys know, you can ask questions anytime. You can just jump in and ask questions anytime. All right, let's go on. Are you there for me, Pat, or another person who wants to help? Well, the classification is endorsed by Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC), and then AB as well. So the classification has received a very strong backing. CDC is very strong, and then Amy. For now, you see, I don't think you know much about Amy unless you are already working in a healthcare field. If you are already working in a healthcare field, you might have heard about Amy. But if you are new, then maybe it is the first time you are hearing about Amy. But CDC is something that I believe almost everybody here has heard about. CDC, so it has very strong backing. Next slide, please. Now, what is needed? Yeah, very interesting, slide over here. So, do we just clean? Do we just disinfect? And do we just, sterilize? Sterilization, well, that is the sequence. Some of the items may not get to sterilization. They will only end at disinfection. Some of them may also just end maybe at cleaning. Well, at cleaning point after they are clean. For example, the pressure cuff, as I said, they may use some alcohol, but I don't see them use that. Well, maybe when I'm done and I leave the doctor, he may use that, but I don't think they do. So these are the things that we are going to see now. Let's look at the critical. The critical. This table here makes it very comprehensive, makes it easier for you to comprehend. Critical, well, enters sterile tissue or vascular system as we said already, bloodstream. When something cuts you, when they use for example, scissors or some needle, those things come with blood. Yes, and so they are critical. They must be sterilized. So we have implants, surgical instruments, and needles. When you go for 400 hours, you are going to be exposed to tons, thousands of, instruments. But very interesting, don't be overwhelmed or don't be alarmed. When we are all, new, we said, wow, what is this? But after some time, we became champions. Then we also have the semi-critical, touches the mucous membrane. Again, for me to explain the mucous membrane, because the semi-critical is based on the mucous membrane premise. So you need to understand. So we define the mucous membrane as the openings, the natural openings on the human body. And all these, openings have soft linings. The mouth has it, the nose, ear, etc. They must receive, receive high-level disinfection, preferably sterilization if possible. But if sterilization is not possible, they must receive high-level disinfection as the minimum. Then we have the non-critical, critical. These ones, they have the interskin, and we talk about them already, like the pressure cuff, etc., and so on. So these are the ones that we're talking about. Yeah. Next slide, please. Can somebody help me read? I don't
Okay.
think it should be part alone. Any volunteer?
Yeah, I will do that.
Oh, thank you.
Continuation. Yeah, continuation. Understanding disinfectant in healthcare settings. There is no single disinfectant treatable for all students of all for all situations, which is why this decontamination area have multiple options available. Central service technicians must understand the various disinfectant and select the appropriate one for specific tasks.
Okay.
Understanding.
Yeah, pause that for me. Yeah, pause that for me. The whole analysis today probably is contained in the swallowing classification, and then where what's your name, please? Hello, the person who just read, what's your name? I like to
Yeah,
address people by their name.
Taha.
Taha, okay, thank you. Yeah, so what Taha has read right now is very important. There's no single disinfectant suitable for all situations. It is true. Now, I mean, just like you want to prepare, let's say, stew or soup, and whatever you are going to use to prepare the soup is different from whatever you are going to prepare for the stew. There are certain things that are common. We call them the common denominators, like salt, pepper, ginger, etc. Fine. The soup has its own line. Stew has its own line. So the same thing, instruments also and medical devices have different, or they are made up in different ways. So what must be used for them also differ, and that is what we are going to look at. Okay, continue, please. Taha, please.
Okay. Central service professionals work with numerous chemical disinfectant daily. While all disinfectants share a common purpose, they function differently based on their composition and intended application. Understanding these difference, differences help ensure effective disinfectant.
Yes,
Disinfectant.
correct. Very soon today in the class, I'll be giving you an acronym that I call CAPSICOP. It's an acronym I developed myself along the line when I'm teaching this. CAPSICOP, along the line, I'll give you quaternary ammonium compound, alcohol, phenolates, chlorine, iodophos, halogens, glyceraldehydes, autophthaldehydes, and parasitic acid and formaldehydes. In the past, we had formaldehydes, but that has been changed now to parasitic acid. Now, um, we are going to learn that they are formulated differently, and what they do is also different. Now, for example, alcohol. By alcohol, I don't think the one that we drink and get drunk. No, I'm talking about the medical alcohol, the one you can even buy 70% isopropyl or 90%, etc. Now, they have different formulations. What they do is different. Now, this slide, where we are right now, bactericide. Now, some are able to kill bacteria, sterilization, the process. So the terms have also been hot defined. And the spoiling classification that we just talked about is right there, developed by Dr. E.H. Spaulding, that device medical. So spend some time over here, and then sterilization, high level. I mean, even before, well, at the very beginning of this class, I defined sterilization, and I said where every living or microbial life. As a matter of fact, I use this word microbial life, the absence of all microbial life. It is defined here as completely devoid of all living organisms. And it's the same thing, absence of microbial life. So that is high level disinfection, and that is, sterilization. That is what we want. But not all instruments can receive sterilization. When you come to sterilization, which is not for today, we are going to learn about low temperature, then high temperature. And then we have the high level disinfection. Some will receive low and others intermediate. All right, thank you. Next slide. All right. Who wants to rate? Is it Taha again or Pat? Or
Yeah,
who?
yeah. Let me
Okay.
go. Types
Sure,
of
I like
disinfectants. Disinfectant is a process that encompasses different level of effectiveness. The three principal primary disinfectant levels are high level disinfections, intermediate level disinfections, low level disinfections. Should I go on?
No, pause there. Thank you very much. Taha. Now, students, let me give a word of caution. Let me give a word of caution. Now, students normally get confused about the three categories based on the Spalding classification and then the three categories of disinfectants. And I know what I'm talking about. Now, with the Spalding classification, we have the critical, semi-critical, and then the non-critical. But when it comes to the disinfectants, they are high, intermediate, low. And I'm speaking from experience. So never get confused about. So sometimes when a student wants to talk about the three categories of the Spalding classification, then the student will go and start talking about high level, intermediate, and low. That is incorrect. The high, intermediate, low is about trying to classify or categorize the disinfectants. And then the Spalding itself is the critical, semi-critical, the semi-critical, then the non-critical. Okay, go on, please. Start.
Okay, low level and intermediate level disinfectants. These disinfectants are used on items that come into contact with intact skin or environmental surfaces. Examples include clutches and then countertops and some mobile equipment. Common disinfectants in this category include quaternary ammonium compounds, PATH, alcohol, uh, phenol, phenolic,
Yeah, phenolics. Yeah,
yeah,
phenolics.
phenolics, chlorines, and then
Idophos. Yeah,
iodopropyl.
idophos. Yeah, correct. Yeah, pause there. Now, so we have the low and intermediate. The low and intermediate quaternary ammonium compound. When you begin to take each of them, you realize that the quaternary ammonium compound, most often housekeeping guys, like to use it. Housekeeping. So when you are working in the EVS, let's assume that you are working in a hospital already or in a healthcare facility, and you are working in EVS, environmental services. The chemical that you are using most likely has a high concentration of quaternary ammonium compound. Yeah, but you may not know. When you go to work, just check, the bottle or the gallon, and you see that. And then we have alcohol. The one that we use in the healthcare normally is the isopropyl, and then we prefer the 70% concentration. Now, I'll be explaining to you why we need the 70%. For sure, I know that we even have 90%. So why is it that healthcare facilities prefer 70? As a matter of fact, we are 50, 70, and 90. I think one time I saw 99. I'm not sure. But let me talk about the 90. So why is it that in healthcare, they prefer 70 to the 90? The higher the concentration, the better it should be. But why? We're going to learn about that. Then the phenolics. When we come to the phenolics, I'll be talking about a drink, a popular drink for the French people, the francophone. When you go to, for example, Togo, Benin, Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, there's a drink called pastis, PASTIS. I like to use that drink as an example. So we have a lot of things, interesting things to cover today. All right, next slide, please. Okay, can you go ahead for me? This is Taha or whoever.
Okay, quads are commonly used low-level disinfectants with benza. No, that way that benza.
Benzalkonium, yeah.
Yeah,
Benzalkonium, yeah, chloride.
chloride being the most frequently used active ingredients. While
Yeah,
effective for general sanitation, they have limitation that must be considered in CS decontamination procedures. The
sure.
key
Okay, yeah,
consideration,
continue.
okay, key consideration for quath, not compatible with soap, as residues can interfere with effectiveness, may be absorbed by material such as cotton and filter paper, should not be used with cotton towels, cloth, or mop head unless the manufacturer's instruction for use, IFU, indicate compatibility.
Yes, let me explain this. There is something very interesting over here. It's a word of caution to us as experts and you, the upcoming. Now, not compatible with soap. By the way, we don't even use soap in sterile processing in the decontamination room. Soap is never used. So that's, of course, a good thing. Now, maybe absorbed by materials, but we do have cotton, things that have cotton. Like towels and those kind of things. Yeah, we do. And filter paper is very common. Yeah, that's what we use for our trays. I mean, we actually don't use this. So as you see, it is something that is used. Well, I mean, when you go to hold on. When you go into the book, page 137, yeah, you read more about that. Yes, yes. So it's a word of caution. So we don't even actually, it is not something that we even use in sterile processing anyway. All right, thank you very much. Next slide, please.
So, guys, because we don't use this in Central Sterile, if EVS ever comes to your department and they're trying to use cloth, mop heads, or any of these things listed here to clean quast, that is where you let them know that, hey, you're not supposed to use this. All right. So this slide, I believe, is referencing to EVS.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, director. Okay. Yeah, these are the advantages. And then we have the advantages and then the disadvantages. Anyone wants to take that? Okay. Effective against bacteria. That's what we call bacteria, of course, fungi and lipo. Anytime you hear the word lipo, we are talking about fat. Fat. There are some viruses that work very well when they see fat. Contain detergent, properties, allowing surface, wetting and cleaning, and can be used for environmental sanitation, flows, etc. So that was the first thing I said at the beginning, that if you work in the EVS, then just check, the bottle or the gallon, etc. Yeah, EVS is barely for EVS, for flow, those kind of things, not for swap processing, not spocidal. Chapter 3, I treated that chapter and we talk about the spore. We said the spore, happens, when a bacteria develops a thick coat, a very thick coat, surrounding the nucleus to help it withstand adverse conditions, the spore. But you see, the quas is not spocidal. In other words, you see, the sidal is a suffix, guys. I was also the one who treated that chapter 2, so I remember very well. I talk about it. We talk about the prefix, root, and then the suffix. The side, side means kill. So it's not able to kill. It's not able to kill anything. The spore. Yes, and generally not effective against tuberculosis. You see, the tuberculosis bacteria is also not good against it. It cannot. And also maybe neutralized by organic material. By organic material, talking about, when things are not well cleaned, it will, the power of it will be deactivated. Yes. Then we also talk about, yes, Graham, I remember when I was treating chapter 4 or so, students were asking a lot of questions about the gram negative and then the gram-positive. Do you guys remember we talk about the gram-negative and then the gram-positive? Do you remember? Hello, let me hear voices. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sure. So the gram-negative is not able to hold on to the color. When the decolorizer is used, it releases it. Then the gram-positive is the one that holds. So those bacteria that are negative, you see, the class is not, effective, and also, the time frame of 6 to 10 minutes is there. That it must, be on the surface, of that. And remember, in healthcare, sterile processing, we call something IFU. Well, some books very seldom use MIFU or MIFU. If you see M before the IFU, it only means manufacturer information for use. The common one is that information for use. That's what you'll see. So regardless, just check, the information for use. All right, thank you. Next slide, please. Continuation. In addition to quaternary compound squads, healthcare facilities utilize a variety of other disinfectants to achieve different levels of microbial control. Each disinfectant has unique properties, advantages, and limitations, making it essential for central service technicians to select the appropriate, to use. We have a variety of them, and we are going to see, some of these things along the line today. Yeah, next slide, please. All right. So we have the summary of quartz over here. We talk about this, and everything has been brought into like one slide, which is very, very good. It's very, very good. Thank you, Director. So we have the bactericidal, fungicidal, and then, of course, varicidal against lipophilic or lipophilic, those are the fat wetting agents, with built-in detergent. I will talk about all this, not sporcidal. So this slide is just a kind of summary, a summary of what we have done. This slide is very, very good. Yes. All right. Now, let's come to alcohol. Can somebody read?
Okay. Alcohol. Alcohol-based disinfectants are widely used in healthcare settings for surface disinfection and antiseptic applications. The most commonly used alcohol include
ethyl. Yeah, ethyl, called ethyl.
Ethyl alcohol. Isopropyl.
That one is isopropyl. Yeah, those names are quite difficult for new persons, so I know.
Yeah. Consideration for alcohol.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Pause there. So in fact, pause there. So we have two varieties. The commonest one, which I have seen all the time in healthcare, in SPD and healthcare, is the isopropyl alcohol. And then they serve as intermediate, intermediate, as opposed to the quartz, which is, of course, basically the low. They serve as the intermediate. Then they work rapidly against a wide range of microorganisms, including bacteria, etc. Now, with the isopropyl, let me talk more about the isopropyl, because most of the questions I can even say, are going to be based on isopropyl. They just want you to know that there is another category, that's the ethyl. So let me talk more about the isopropyl. When you go to any 99-cent store or whatever, you see alcohol in concentrations of up to 90. In fact, you can also see sometimes even 50. When you go to Walmart, when you go to walmart.com, or when you're close to Walmart, you see that 50 and some shops now. But then the commonest is the 70 and then the 90. The range. That is the range. When you go to the healthcare, you are going to see that we use the 70 in SPD, and almost all the healthcare, well, I can't say almost because I haven't I haven't visited all the departments, but I can assure you that you are going to see about almost all 70%. My question now is why the 70% instead of the 90%? We know that when something, if we want to kill bacteria, fungi, etc., or virus, etc., the higher the concentration, that's what we should go for. But interestingly, you are going to see that 70% use all around. In sterile processing, the trend is gradually changing. We they don't even want to see alcohol again, Yeah, but sometimes they are used to mix with, some chemicals. Yes, there is a machine called OER, Olympus, yeah, and then has that, alcohol in it. So we have alcohol in sterile processing. Now, so the 70 against the 90, which one will you go for, guys? If you want to kill a bacteria, is it the 70% or the 90%? Which one do you think will be the best?
70.
Why?
90%.
90.
70. Since 70 can kill them, I'll use 70. In case they start to develop.
But
90.
I'll use 90.
Okay, yes, I like your responses. Well, of course, I guess that is Pat, right? Who read, who started, reading first, I guess. Now, so, the interesting thing is that if you want something to kill, then of course, going for the higher concentration is the ideal one. But we are coming to the science. The 70 is better than the 90. Why?
Because in case they develop resistance, that's why I'm choosing that one.
Okay, well, you have made an attempt, but that's not actually the real reason. So let me give you the scientific reason.
Okay.
You see, there is something we call DDT in Ghana. Those of you from Ghana, I don't know if you heard about DDT. Have you heard about DDT?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Well, you see, I like to speak with authority. Unfortunately, this one I cannot speak with authority because I didn't, try it myself. They claim that if you drink the DDT itself, just like that, you won't die. They claim. I don't know if it is true or not, but then it's about death, so I never tried it. But when you drink it and drink water, that's when it activates. Well, I just want to bring an idea here. You see, water is needed to carry the chemicals in the alcohol into the cells of the bacteria or the fungi. Now, anytime I'm explaining this, I use one example. We are all adults here, and all the classes, they are all above 18 years, so I like to use, a very good example. What we call the sperm that comes from men. Now, you and I don't see the sperm. What we see is the semen or the semen. Now, the semen is needed to carry the sperm into the woman. In the same way, water is needed to carry the chemicals in the alcohol into the cells of the bacteria and the fungi to kill them. So I always use the semen, sperm example to explain the concentration, the 70% of the alcohol and the 30. So enough water is required. Enough water is required to carry the chemicals in the alcohol into the cells. Do you understand me now, guys? Do you understand why the 70% is, better over the 90% now? Do you understand me now?
Still not clear.
Hello, let me hear your voice. Oh, it's not clear, right? Let me explain it to you. Now, if you have 90%, it means that the chemical in the alcohol is 90% and then the water is 10%. Do you understand that? Okay, with the 70%, the chemical is 70%. Then the water is 30. So if you are taking the 70% formulation, then you are having 70% of the chemical, 30% of water. If you are going for the 90%, that means the concentration of the alcohol is 90% and then 10 for water. With the 90, it means there is not enough water to carry the chemicals into the cells of the bacteria to kill it. So it will be ineffective. But with the 70%, science has proven that there is enough water, 30%, to carry the 70% into the cells. And that is the reason I like to use the semen and then the sperm as an example. So there is enough. So water is required. Enough water is required to carry the chemicals. But when you go for the 90%, water is only 10%. With a high concentration of 90% of the alcohol, it's not enough to carry it into the cells. But with the 70, there's enough water, 30%. Science has proven that that is better. Do you all understand me now? Why the 70% is used in the medical field instead of the 90?
Yeah, we understand.
Yeah, it's
Thank
clear.
you. Thank you. All right. Okay, so that's about that. Now, that's the area I wanted to spend a lot of time to explain, because students sometimes ask, why won't we go for the high concentration? That should be better. I said, no, it's rather the opposite. The 70 is better than the 90 when it comes to, Sterile or side to kill. This in SPD or the medical field. All right, thank you. Next slide, please. I mean, the time also is very important. Alcohol must be in wet contact at least for 5 minutes, at least minimum for 5 minutes. All right, next slide, please, Director.
We have the next slide.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sure. Now, so these are the advantages. Well, of course, alcohol, leaves no residue on the surfaces. It is inexpensive. I mean, the 16 FL, but I have one with me right now on my table, 70% equate. The 16 FL, I think just about $2.45, $2.49. So it's very cheap, guys. If bacteria can die just by a droplet of this, that's a good news. Evaporates is, yes, alcohol, this kind of alcohol. So that's why they must be closed all the time. When you open it, they evaporate, isn't it? Then let's come to the disadvantages. Non-sposadal, you see, it doesn't also kill the spore. See, the spore is very notorious, very stubborn, ineffective against some viruses. Non-enveloped, non-enveloped, viruses, and then evaporates quickly. Flammable, yes, alcohol burns. Alcohol campaign, because damage to some materials. When I started this career, gastroscope, bronchoscope, and colonoscope, after cleaning it, and from at that time, we were not using machines, we were using OPA, so like a basin. We flash alcohol through it. But now, I mean, science is changing. They said sometimes, the plastic materials, react with the chemical so that's, about that. The commonly uses is that in fact, a very simple one, when you go to see even your PCP, they use, if they want to do blood work, for example, at the hospital or the clinic, they use some alcohol part, to wipe the place. And then, so it is used to also disinfect small instruments, such as, thermometers and also stethoscopes. Your doctors will use that. I mean, they use the stethoscopes. I mean, yeah, it's for them. And also, so that's about that. Skin antiseptics, as I said already, before an injection, or they want to, do blood work, they surely have that. Now, the summary is here, very interesting. I always like the summary because it puts everything together. Rapid bacterial site agent against vegetative. When you say vegetative, you're talking about microorganisms that are very young, that are very young. So all the things that we talk about, they are there as a summary. All right, let's go to the next slide, please. Okay. Who wants to read again? Somebody wants to read? Tara or Pat or anyone else?
Okay, I'll take that.
Okay, that's fine.
Understanding the properties, advantages, and limitations of various disinfectants. is essential for CS technicians to ensure effective infection control. Since no single disinfectant is suitable for all situations, selecting the appropriate disinfectant depends on factors such as the type of surface, level of microbial contamination, and presence of organic material.
Yes.
CS
pause there. Pause there. The level of microbial contamination is very key. We call that the load, or the viral load. If there are just about 10,000 or there are about 10 million, of course. And also the presence of organic material. If the item is either it is clean or not clean, or well clean or not well clean. If it's not well clean and there are some blood or human tissue, etc., it will serve as a barrier. And so you see that they are saying that always follow the IFU, the information for use provided by the manufacturer for the proper application procedures. All right, thank you. Next slide.
CS technicians must follow manufacturer guidelines, IFU, and proper application procedures to maximize disinfectant effectiveness and maintain a safe healthcare environment.
Absolutely, correct.
Phenolic disinfectants are derived from phenol and are commonly used for disinfecting environmental services and non-critical medical devices.
Yes, okay. Pause there. Do you have anybody from a francophone country in this class? Anyone from a francophone country in this class right now? No, right? No one from the French-speaking countries? Okay. Has anyone heard about this drink called pastis? Pastis. Pastis. Has anyone heard about pastis? The drink called pastis?
No.
Okay. You can do a quick Google on your phone. Just say pastis alcohol, like a drink or something. Yeah, because when you type pastis, it will bring some other things. Okay. So this phenolics takes, that's science, and I always use the pastis as an example of those who know of that drink. The way the pastis works is this. If you drink the pastis, in fact, you can't drink the pastis by itself. You must mix it with water. It is just like plain water, but when you mix it, it becomes like milk, like the color. The color will change to like milk color, but it is just clear, clean like water. But you can't drink it that way. You must mix it. Now, when you drink the pastis this evening, or let's say this afternoon, and it makes you drunk, and by 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., it leaves you. You are okay. Tomorrow morning, if you drink water, just water, no more the pastis, just the water, you get drunk again. Why? The water will go and activate the residues of the pastis. Now, we are coming to see this. Phenolics are intermediate level disinfectants. They are effective against bacteria, fungi. They have residual antimicrobial activity, meaning they continue working after application. Now, some phenolic compounds are toxic and require proper handling. They should not be used on items that come into direct contact with the skin. Because because they leave residues on the instruments, they cannot be used for instruments. Otherwise, when the instruments are introduced into the human being, it means that you are introducing phenolics into human being. Do we understand that, everyone, please?
Yes.
Any questions about this? All right. If there are no questions, we move to the next slide. Yes, these are the advantages. Broad spectrum, antimicrobial activity, of course, residual effect for prolonged protection. So it is cost effective. It's cost effective. So, for example, it is used on the floor, to mop the floor. Tomorrow, when they don't even use the phenolics again and they use a wet mop, it will activate and work. So it is very cost effective. Yes. And that is the reason we cannot use it on medical instrument, because the residual effect will be left on the instruments and will go into patients. Very suicidal, very dangerous. Effective on organic matter, making them useful for contaminated surface. And then these are the disadvantages, not suicidal, as we said already. Then it also has the toxic, component of it. Cause irritation if improperly used and then not recommended for the use of neonatal equipment. By neonatal, we're talking about birth areas, instruments, because they go in there to cause damage. Now, common uses: disinfecting floors, as I said, walls, etc. That is where you see phenolics. So the phenolics kind of align with the quaternary ammonium compound that's used on the floor. Yeah, but this one has the advantage of leaving a residual film. So the next day, any wet something, of course, you can have your cleaning. Cleaning on critical medical equipment. You see, non-critical medical equipment, they are not saying critical, they're non-critical. And they are even not saying semi-critical, so they are saying non-critical. So maybe we're talking about Photon, PCD devices, etc. Maybe because those things just touch the skin and not actually entering the human body. All right, next slide, please. So the summary is here. Again, you can see the gram-negative and then the gram-positive. Broad spectrum of use, bactericidal for the gram-negative and gram-positive. This one is a good thing. It's able to kill both the gram-positive and then the gram-negative. And also the tuberculosis, bacteria, etc. It can, do a good job. Then the disadvantage is that it's non-spocidal. The spore is very stubborn. We have talked about that. When you come to high temperature and low temperature, you learn more about the spore, how to incubate, etc. It's a very stubborn. It can survive high temperatures. And then corrosive to some plastics, some plastic materials. And then used in the housekeeping again, uses that. As you can see, floors, countertops, etc. All right, thank you. Next slide. Chlorine. The tap water that we drink in the home, that comes through. We are coming to learn something about that. Who wants to read? Somebody?
I will.
We have a lot of students in the class, about 29, including myself and our director. So students should be about 29. I'm 27. So let's have a lot of volunteers, guys.
Chlorine disinfectants. I will.
Your name is that Taha again?
Yusuf.
Okay, Yusuf. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, go ahead, please.
Chlorine-based disinfectants are among the most powerful broad-spectrum disinfectants commonly used in healthcare facilities. Key consideration for chlorines: high-level disinfectant depending on concentration, effect against bacteria, virus, fungi, and spores. Chlorine solutions can degrade over time, losing effectiveness, can be corrosive to metal and harmful to skin if not properly diluted. Advantage of chlorine.
Yeah, pause there for now. Yeah, for chlorine, you might have met it at your high school. A little bit of science. Yeah, they are powerful spectrum, and then they are used to disinfect. High level disinfectant, depending on the concentration. Yes, they actually belong to the intermediate, but when the concentration is high, then of course they migrate to the high area, and they kill, effective against bacteria, virus, fungi, and spore. You see, now the spore is able to kill the spore if it's in a high level of concentration that will make it look like high level of disinfection, and then the hours or the time will also vary proportionally to make it kill the spore. But the good thing is that at least we are hearing that it can kill the spore. Chlorine solutions can degrade over time, losing effectiveness. So that means that if you want to use it, that the concentration, something we call MEG, minimum effective concentration, has to be checked each time, based on how it is used. If it is the form of, let's say, alcohol pad, then you're not going to check that because after all, it's one-time use. But if it's something that is reusable, then it has to be checked all the time. And then the advantage is also there. Yeah, go on, please.
Advantages of chlorines: effective against wide range of microorganisms, including bacteria, viruses, fungi, and spores. Affordable and widely available. Rapid action against pathogens.
Yes. Yes, it is true. They use chlorine in treating our tap waters. You will now understand why they have to use it, because water is coming from somewhere, maybe a spring or river or somewhere. For what I know, for now, they don't actually use the seawater, because the treatment will be more expensive. What I know is that they use rivers, etc. But imagine dead animals, dead fishes. It could even be that maybe a human being even got drowned. So imagine. So the chlorine is able to do a very good job for us. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay. Yeah, continue.
Disadvantages of chlorines: corrosive to some material, including metal and plastic. Can be inactivated by organic material, requiring thorough cleaning.
Yeah, pause there. Pause there. Guys, you see, the fundamental duty of sterile processing, the whole work begins from the decontamination room. Our job, decontamination room, is very, very important. So if the cleaning is not thorough, that word there is very important. If the cleaning is not thorough, and you have organic materials left on the instrument or whatever you are going to use the chlorine for, once you introduce the chlorine, the organic material is going to inactivate, or make it useless, ineffective. That's what it means. Meaning that it is mandatory, a professional standard, to clean very well, to make sure that every organic matter visible to the eyes and not visible is taken out for the chlorine to be able to do its job. Continue, please.
Strong odor and potential irritants to skin and respiratory system. Short shelf life, requiring frequent preparation of fresh solutions.
Yes, the IFU, the information for use will tell you how long the shelf life. We have shelf life and use life. When we come to chapter, okay, you let me leave it. I think chapter what? I think chapter 18 or so, or 19, those areas we are talking about supply. So we'll be talking about shelf life and use life. There is a difference between use life and shelf life, but I don't want to talk about that for now. We'll get there. When we get there, I'll tell you the difference. Now, common uses. Well, by the way, let me explain that. So the shelf life is very short. Which means that all the time you must, buy a new one or something. Yes, and it's also used for surface, disinfection in hospitals, and also disinfection of spills involving blood. And we talk about blood. Very interesting. Blood. You see, when you go to the hospital, they take your blood. They see so many things, whatever they want to check. So, and the bloodstream is the most sterile area also of the human body, and then the vascular system. We just saw it based on the spalling. Yeah. And so diseases also are found in the blood. For example, herbs, HIV, those things. So, if chlorine can work on the blood, like let's say there's a spear on the floor and chlorine can do its job, hooray! That's a very good news. And these are things that we are happy with chlorine. Thank you. Next slide, please. Yes. So we have the summary on the board. On the screen. Normally, I don't like, going through the summary because it's like everything that you have said already. Again, the gram positive, the gram negative, effective against them. That's the good news. That's the good news. It acts very fast. Quick action. Quick action. That is fast acting, and the tuberculosis and then the fungi, viruses, broad spectrum of viruses also. But then the disadvantages seem to outweigh the benefits. Seem, but still use chlorine, water treatment, inactivated by organic matter. That's what we said about that. Cleaning is very, very important. You must make sure that you clean very well. They're corrosive to some metals, and then non-spocidal is not able to actually, work very well on the spore. Stain fabrics, and that's very unfortunate. Relatively unstable, yeah, meaning that if it is diluted, it can easily prove a negative or give you a negative result. Uses, and we talk about that already. Hypotherapy valves, dialysis machines, toilets, lavatories, and bathtubs, etc. Broad spectrum, is used. So with this thing that you see here, then of course, people working in the EVS will handle this a lot because toilets, baths, etc. They work in these areas and they take charge of this is dialysis machines, etc. All right, next slide, please. Let's come to iodophos. Somebody wants to read for me, please?
Yes. Iodophor disinfectants are iodine-based compounds used for skin antisepsis and surface disinfection. Key considerations for iodophors: intermediate level disinfectants with broad spectrum antimicrobial activity. They are less irritating than pure iodine, but still effective against bacteria, fungi, and viruses. Commonly used in surgical settings and for skin preparation before procedures. Can be inactivated by organic bacteria and require proper dilution. Advantages of iodophors: broad spectrum antimicrobial activity, less irritating than iodine, and then residual antimicrobial effect.
All right, thank you. So you see that this also has the residual effect, just like the phenolics, where I asked you to check for the pastilles. Also has that. Now, yeah, but let's actually, go through this. The intermediate level and they work a lot. They are commonly used in surgical settings and for, preparation before, procedure. So if one day you turn out to become a surgical technologist, some people start with sterile processing and then they start to go for surgical technologies. I've seen that. Then you are going to use iodophors a lot. You will meet it. Unfortunately, they fall under or they're linked to the range or the family of iodine, which actually we don't use on instruments. So when you become a surgical technologist one day, we expect you to be very diligent to clean, to wipe, those things if they are used after all on them. But unfortunately, we get them in SPD, sterile processing. Anyway, again, a caution is given over here that can be inactivated by organic material and require proper dilution. Again, trying to reinforce thorough cleaning. Cleaning must be very thorough. Again, cleaning must be very thorough for iodophors to, do what they have to do. If you are very, excuse my language, lazy in the decontamination, or you have a technician who is so lazy in the decontamination area, just want to push everything through, then force is not going to do its work very well. You must be very diligent, live up to the professional standard by making sure that they clean. And very, can cause some kind of, skin. I mean, we don't want that thing to touch your skin because, it can somehow also, affect your skin, some irritation. Now, next slide, please.
Prof, 4:15, remember, we'll take a break.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, correct. Okay. So now, someone wants to read this for me, the disadvantages?
Disadvantages of IDFOS. Non-sporicidal can stain surfaces and skin, inactivated by organic material. Common uses:
sure.
Antisepsis before surgical procedures, disinfection of medical instruments, and hand hygiene in clinical settings.
Yes, it's true. Non-sporicidal, again, if the spore cannot be killed, that is a blow. But of course, it does a good job anyway, killing others, not the spore. The spore is very stubborn. I said that several times. Can stain surfaces and skin. Yes, I mean, very unfortunate, but that's how it is. So we have to make sure that we protect our skin, and then the surfaces. By surfaces, we are talking about maybe non-critical medical devices, or those that come into the contact of the intact skin, etc. Again, organic material, guys, you see, it's always been said, when you guys go to the field, something I always tell my students that, listen, you don't know how happy I was to be in sterile processing. And I'm still in it. Even though I am a lecturer, as I said, I think a lot of students have joined. I'm a lecturer at Yeshiva University, lecturing economics. But I'm still in sterile, processing. I mean, I can't just leave. It is something that is very, very interesting. And when you go to the field, you are going to see how callous some workers are, staff. Some of them just don't care. They just go by the time. Oh, I'm here 8 a.m. Oh, by 4 p.m. I'll go. They don't care. But remember, somebody's life is in your hands. Somebody believes that, oh, I heard about Mount Sinai. I heard about NYU. I heard about, Columbia. I heard about Presbyterian. Oh, people fly across the world, far away from Japan, Australia, Europe. Somebody's life is in your hands. Presidents of other countries, where do they come? They come to New York. Presidents, ministers, they come to New York. I'm telling you. Yes. So life is in your hands. So organic material, make sure that everything is clean very well. Now, skin and something before surgical procedures, that happens in the OR, in the operation room. We are not there. That is why I said, when you become, let's assume in the future, you decide that you want to become a surgical technologist, then you are going to see that. You are going to use it. And disinfection of medical instruments, and of course, then hand hygiene in clinical settings. They use it as a hand hygiene. The best hand hygiene is actually, to wash your hands anyway. Yeah, hand washing is the best. But then still, of course, they can use that. Next slide, please. Is 4:09 my time? If the next slide will take us to, okay. Oh, very good. Okay, very good. Yeah, I thought it was sending us to the next, disinfectant. Now, so we have the quartz. So this is like a summary. This table is very, very interesting. We have the quartz. It's a low level, very effective against bacteria, fungi, lipophilic viruses, and then not sporicidal, inactivated by organic material. So this brings the key part of each that we talk about, the alcohol. Remember the alcohol we have them in 2. The quartz is quaternary ammonium compound that housekeeping the EVS, on the floor. And then the alcohol, we said that we have the ethyl. We have the ethyl. Then we also have the isopropyl. And I told you that you are most likely only going to see the isopropyl and then the 70% concentration. And I explained why the 70% is chosen over 90 in healthcare settings, because water is needed to carry the chemicals into the bloodstream. Not to the bloodstream, I'm sorry, I withdraw that, into the cells of bacteria, to kill them. Then we also have the bacteria, the fungi, etc. And of course, but it is flammable, it can burn. Then the phenolics, the one that I said, talking about the pastilles, intermediate. And also remember that we said it leaves a residual film, on the floor or on the surface, which is activated by wetness. Anytime anything wet is introduced, then the chlorine, high level, if it is in the higher concentration. And we said that, well, of course, our home, the tap sometimes becomes very whitish, very potent. But then it is also corrosive, losing its potency over time. So it means that money has to be spent in all the time trying to acquire more. Very good against bacteria, viruses, and then the spore. Then we have the iodophos, also intermediate, which is intermediate. Bacteria works very well on bacteria, fungi, etc. But it is not sporcidal. That is something that we are talking about. Is not sporcidal. Can stain, inactivated by organic. But so when you look at almost all of them, organic matter is a concern, which again boils down to the fact that when you're working in the decontamination room, you must make sure that you really clean the instruments, because when they are not well cleaned, it means that they are going to hinder the effectiveness of some of these disinfectants. Very unfortunate, but that is the situation. Yes. So this is just a summary. Next slide. If the next slide is glutaraldehyde or something, okay, very good. Summary of iodophos, great. So you have the advantages over here. You see, it works on bacteria, viruses, broad range of viruses, and then the tuberculosis bacteria, rapid action against vegetative bacteria. When we say vegetative bacteria, we're talking about bacteria that is not old yet. Old. It's a very young bacteria, very young bacteria. They are babies, they are not strong very well. Then the disadvantage is also they're very corrosive, and then detrimental to some plastics, plastic materials. You are going to see plastic materials in sterile processing. Some of the containers we have are plastic, especially for flexible scopes. But some hospitals gradually are changing those things to rigid containers. Those that can be sterilized in low temperature sterilizers. But still, you are going to see plastic materials for some, flexible. Not only, flexible scopes. You can also see them for some rigid instruments like striker bridge, etc. You are going to see them in plastic, containers. Stains, fabrics, and other materials, and may require long contact time. Time to kill. May require long contact time to kill. Of course, time is very, very critical. Use on the skin. We said that already before surgery in the OR, and also able to disinfect some materials. And that is what we have. Must remain on wet contact, wet for at least 2 minutes, and that is a requirement. Then some nice pictures over the high-level disinfection process. This picture is very interesting. When you go to the field, you understand it more. From the decontamination room, well clean. There is, we use so many. Well, if there's something that you can see, normally we don't use a boroscope. Oh, it's time for break. Okay, just give me 2 minutes to finish with this, guys. We'll take our break, right now. Yeah. So we use different. Now we use machines. In the past we didn't. To clean, and then from there, they are either going into a machine, or if there are no machine, mechanical. When you look at mechanical, there are some 3 pictures over there. The top one, mechanical, the top one. There are some machines. The popular one now is the Olympus OER Pro. Then the one below the mechanical, the right section, bottom, the right section, looks like System 1E. System 1E. That's how it looks like, System 1E. You don't know this is yet, but don't worry. When you go to the field, System 1E is no more popular in hospitals. Hospitals are trying to get rid of it. By the way, we also have some in like bottles, as you can see, the glutaraldehydes. When we come to, after our break, we'll go to the high level, the glutaraldehyde, autophalaldehyde. We'll talk about the parasitic acid, and then there are 4 of them. Then we'll talk about that. So let's take our break right now. 4:16, 15 minutes break. So let's say 4:31, 32, according to my time, you are back. So 4:32, according to my time, 16 minutes break, 16 instead of 1:5. Okay, thank you very much. All right, yeah, so we ended on this slide. So director, can we move to the next slide? Thank you. Okay, so who wants, we are now on glutaraldehyde and autophalaldehyde. Glutaraldehyde and autophalaldehyde. The names may sound very botanical. Yeah, they may sound very botanical to pronounce, especially if you are new to this field. But we are now into the high-level disinfectants area. Glutaraldehyde is, well, we are just from break. I know you guys have refreshed. Who wants to help me read this? Any volunteer? Wow. No
Come on,
volunteer?
somebody.
Oh, after the
Yeah,
break.
can I go?
I'll do it.
Yeah, okay.
Glutaraldehyde and autophalaldehyde.
Yeah, autophalaldehyde, yeah.
OPA.
Yeah.
Glutaraldehyde is a high-level disinfectant, HLD, primarily used for semi-critical medical devices, such as endoscopes and ultrasonic probes.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, so remember, when we started the class today, we started with the Spalding classification. We talk about the semi-critical. With the semi-critical, we said these are the mucous membrane areas of the human body. And so instruments that are actually used in the mucous membrane, they receive such called high-level disinfection. And that is where we have glutaraldehyde and autophalaldehyde there. Okay, continue.
It is particularly valuable for processing heat-sensitive instruments that cannot withstand high temperature sterilization. Key properties.
Correct. Pause there. Yeah, pause there, please. When you come to high temperature sterilization, we are talking of 270. Well, I mean, that's the dynamic. With the gravity, we are talking about 250, but that's also still high. So, but we normally sterilize using, the dynamic. For now, you don't know what I mean by, dynamic removal, etc. So just take the temperature. I don't want to confuse you. We sterilize on 270 or 275. But now hospitals have just accepted the 270 because it's a range. It's a range that you have been given. So they felt, why go for the maximum when even the minimum is also acceptable? Now, that's a very high temperature, 270 degrees Fahrenheit. high temperature sterilization. We also have the low temperature anyway, but not every instrument that can withstand the heat. So with such instruments, it means that, well, using chemical is the alternative based on the manufacturer. All right, continue, please.
Key properties of glutaraldehyde.
Yes.
It functions by alkylating proteins, disrupting microbial metabolism and reproduction. Typically, a clear liquid that changes color upon activation.
Yeah, pause there. Yeah, pause there. When we come to talk about let me see. This one. Okay, you pause. I mean, I don't want to rush. When it comes to chapter 14, where you'll be hearing about gas plasma and those kind of things, we'll be talking about oxidation, alkylation, and etc. That's where you are going to hear those nomenclature. But along the line, you are going to hear that ethylene oxide or gas plasma, this one will kill by oxidation, this one will kill by alkylation. Now, so for now, I think that's around chapter 14. Yes. Now, when we say alkylation, you see, it is a process where, the metabolism or life-sustaining abilities of a micro, is disrupted, called alkylation, and that's how it destroys it. Yes. So getting to chapter 14, this kind of, terms or nomenclature, in fact, we are going to meet them. And that's what they mean. The kill by alkylation, that means to destroy, how they function to survive, they destroy it, they kill them. Glutaraldehyde, when you go to the field, you see it. It's clear, it's clear, just like water. Well, the color may, change anyway upon activation. Has a sharp, pungent odor. When we say pungent, that means that it's very bad, and it's a strong irritant to the skin, eyes, and respiratory, system. So glutaraldehyde is very, common. There's one chemical that if you start to use the alcohol, there is something used for a machine called the OER Pro that uses the alcohol. You have glutaraldehyde, high percentage of glutaraldehyde, I think 2.5 or so. You might think 2.5 is not strong, it's not high, but trust me, that's the strongest for it. So when you see these chemicals, when you come to sterile process and you see the chemicals, take time. Take the gallons, the bottles, read them. And that's what I do. That's how I know that this, glutaraldehyde even comes into, other things. Yes. The odor is not all that friendly, very strong. And then natural gloves, you must wear PPE. Some PPE, required, natural gloves, face protection, and proper ventilation. These things are very, very important, and that is high-level disinfection. All right. Next slide, please. Safe handling and usage considerations. We just learned that some of these chemicals leave residual films, on surfaces, instruments, etc. We just learned before we went on break. So when you are done, you must rinse it very well, thorough cleaning. Rinsing, sorry. The word cleaning is not used here. It's only used in the decontamination area. Thorough rinsing is very, very important. So you must rinse it to make sure that all the residual films of the chemical is cleaned away or is washed away. Otherwise, some will be left on the instrument, and we don't want that. Now, ventilation, 10 air exchanges, per hour. The decontamination room, the prep and pack, they both have 10 air exchanges per hour. The sterile storage has 4 air exchange per hour. But high-level disinfection is not done in the storage area. Never done. Storage is storage. So high-level disinfection has its own. In some hospitals, there are specific room called HLD room, high-level disinfection room. That is somehow close to the decontamination room, but it is not part of the decontamination room. It is, separated, controlled. It's a cleaner environment than the decontamination room. So exchange, why? Because of the odor and those kind of things, the chemicals. We don't want people with asthma or those kind of things to be breathing. Not even people with asthma, but just smelling chemicals. We don't want that. Yes, so a designated room, and hospitals are doing that these days. They are trying to create HLD rooms. Not all hospitals are able to do that because of space. So don't misquote me. When you go to the field and you see HLD is done in the decontamination room or some area, in the prep and pack, don't say, oh, well, we are taught in class that it's done, it has its own room. No. It depends. I mean, real estate, real estate is the challenge in every hospital. So by real estate, I'm talking about space. So some hospitals have, a place for it, others don't have. Regardless, the protocol remain the same. It should be a very clean area. Then we also have the storage. Well, of course, unused glutaraldehydes should be kept in tightly sealed, properly labeled containers in a cool, secure location. What happens is that when you pour the chemical from the gallon and maybe you are not able to pour all and there is some left, this is what we mean by shelf life or storage life or use life. Remember, we were talking about shelf life and use life. The use life is the one that you are actually processing, putting in chemicals, instruments, reprocess. That is the use life. But the shelf life is that, well, of course, if it is not open at all, how long? So once you open it, and you don't use all, the leftover falls under the use life, not the shelf life anymore, because it has been open. I don't know if you understand me. When you see when you buy something, you can see the expiry date to be, let's say, 5 years from now. The expiry date to be 5 years from now, 2025. So they can tell you, oh, the expiry date is 2030. But discard 30 days after opening. I don't know whether you have seen those things. Yeah. So the opening becomes the use life. And then the shelf life is when it is there, which is the manufacturer. So those things, when we come to, I think, chapter 18 or so, I think that's where they are, 17, 18, 19, there. Yeah, thereabout. That's where they are. We'll go in depth for you to understand that. Now, I mentioned this, MEC. If you guys remember, I mentioned this before we went on break. MEC, that is minimum effective recommendation. Some books will also use MRC, which is minimum recommended concentration. So you are going to see the two interchangeably. Some chemicals use MRC, others use MEC. It's the same thing, minimum effective concentration. But I can assure you that when you go to the field also, you are going to see MRC. But because this essence is not actually what is happening in the field, it's what we have in the book, you just focus on the MEC. MEC, minimum effective concentration. What is the MEC? The MEC is just the level at which the chemical is still active to do its job, the potency to be able to do its job. So any time that you are going to use the chemical or the disinfectant, you test it. I repeat, if the chemical will survive 14 days, it doesn't mean that you tested it yesterday, so today is good to go. No, you don't know what happened. Maybe somebody sneaked behind you, and then diluted it, put something into it. You don't know. So each time that you are going to put, so if you are going to reprocess a scope or an instrument, you need 10 times today. It means that you are going to test it 10 times today, and there is a record for it. There is a log for it. The date it was open, the date it was, tested like today, your initial, the result. Oh, it's a very nice document. So we track all that. We track all that so that, may God forbid, so the patient come one day, to sue the hospital. In America, the court cases are very high. The records are that, this, was tested on this date by this technician. It passed. The records are there. There are hungry lawyers who always want people to make mistake. So if the records are not there, the lawyers are happy. That's how it is. So it can be used between 14 and 28 days, of course, depending on the, manufacturer, of course. But glutaraldehydes are always within this range. Anyway, most glutaraldehyde-based solutions can be used, but must be, discarded if their MEC falls below. So the testing is always a test strip. It's a very small test strip. Now, you are not going to say that, this must be there for 14 days. But, the MEC has failed, but of course, it's 14 days, so I'm going to use it. No. Even if you started using it today, and by tomorrow, the minimum effective concentration fails, you must put it away. We are not going by the dates. We are going by the concentration level, the MEC. So they can trick you in the exams that, a disinfectant that must survive for 14 days must be used regardless for the 14 days. No, that will come into A. Normally, we call those distractors. When we are starting quizzes, exams, we call those answers that look juicy, distractors, and we bring them to A. No, that is incorrect. Should be used when the MEC passes, irrespective of the expiry date. That is the best answer. So you must check the MEC to make sure that it passes. So vapors increase when, agitating or disposing of the solution. So neutralizing agents should be used to reduce exposure, rates, etc. Yeah, so when you want to discard it, of course, the label on it, there is something we call safety data sheet. Safety data sheet will tell you how to dispose of it. When you go to the field, how to dispose of, even the supplies that you buy at home, sometimes they tell you, well, this is how you dispose of it. It will tell you how to dispose of it. So that's about, safe handling of the glutaraldehyde. Next slide, please. Yes, so you have the summary over there. Very nice pictures at the left-hand side. You are going to see all this when you go to the field. I can't wait for all of you to start this career path. You see a lot of things, very interesting. Now, let's come to the advantages and the disadvantages now. Because anytime we talk about vegetative bacteria, we're talking about the babies, the young ones. Anything young is not strong. Even human beings, babies, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, they are very vulnerable. They're not strong. Things that cannot shake us can shake them. The same thing happens to bacteria. Within 2 minutes, they're dead. Then the gram positive, then the gram negative, also there. So it is, of course. But if it should be able to kill a spore, which means sterilization, then 10 hours required. But the point is, who wants to wait for 10 hours? That's another question. So if the instrument is something that can be sterilized in a low temperature sterilizer, of course not high, low temperature, then that's an option anyway. But at least it has the claim, and verification that validity that it can be sterilized. Then, of course, always go with the manufacturer's, recommendation. Not just others. Good ventilation is required. 14 to 28, day product life. That is when you begin to use it. Of course, dilution of product reduces the activity necessary. So, because of the dilution, that is why you do the test strip or the test, which is the MEC, minimum effective concentration. Yeah, you check it to see if the concentration is still at the level at which it can, do its job, where it can do its job. That's about that. Uses, of course, semi-critical items, such as, of course, laryngoscope blades, and then also flexible scopes, etc. Yeah, next slide, please.
Yeah, if I may ask, what do you mean by the
Yeah, why
soak
not?
time? The soak time. The soak time
Sorry?
being the soak time being 6 to 10 hours. What do
The
you mean by
soak
that?
time. Are you asking of this?
Yes.
I think
Okay.
we just
Are you asking of the soak time?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, very good. Oh, the soak time, very good. So the soak time is the time that you put the instrument. If it's a flexible scope, whatever, is the time that the instrument will stay inside the chemical for it to achieve the disinfection. That's what I mean by the soak time. Do you understand me now?
Okay.
Yeah. Now, soak time is relative. It can also apply to the decontamination room. I want to clarify that. Now, that's why I said it is relative, depending on where it is used. But here we are on high-level disinfection, so it applies to the time the instrument will stay in the chemical for the disinfection, for high-level disinfection, or the sterilization, which is the 10 hours. But we can also use soak time for decontamination, where an instrument has a specific time it must stay in the enzymatic detergent in the decontamination. So soak time can be used for the decontamination area and can also be used for by depending on what you are talking about. I believe I've explained this to your understanding.
Yes.
Correct. Thank you. All right, next slide, director, please. Okay. Autoformaldehyde, OPA. OPA is perhaps the commonest one that you are going to see in the field. Perhaps the commonest one. The glutaraldehyde that we talk about normally is formulated with other chemicals. Yes, but with the autoformaldehyde, normally it stands on its own. Called the OPA. We also have the metricide OPA, but it's still the OPA. Now, the OPA is also another high-level disinfectant, and it is very, very good. It's very fast and effective against a broad range of, microorganisms. It can be used, and that also has 14 to 28 days. But normally we use the 14 days. But of course, if the manufacturer says it is, you can use it up to 28, days. But I like it when manufacturers are very specific. I like it when they're very specific. Yes, when they give the option range like that, to me it's too wide. But of course, that's what the claim is. Requires a testing before each use. Before, just like the glutaraldehyde, the autoformaldehyde must also be tested each use. Now, there is something I didn't talk about, which is QA, but I don't want to confuse you. So let me leave that one aside. When you go to the field, when the chemical is open for the first time and then the test strip, we test the test strip 3H, full and half. Well, some places they use full concentration, half concentration, and then just bare water. But I don't want to go into that because that is not in the book here. When you go to the field, that is done to test the chemical. The test strip, even the first time. That's done. So you must check any time that you want to use the chemical. That is the soak time again. Somebody, I think, Taha asked the question about the soak time. Anytime you want to put something in it, For it to soak for disinfection, you must test it. That's what we mean by, and then you must check it. Minimum effective concentration. When the color, the test strip is a test strip, it's a very small, well, I can call it a card. I can call it a card, a very small card, very tiny, which is chemically impregnated. That card is chemically impregnated such that it will react, to the, chemical when the required concentration is there. If the required concentration of the chemical is not there, the chemically impregnated card will not react, meaning that it has failed. But you learn all this when you go to the field. Yeah, so don't worry about that. So for now, all that you have to know is that there is something we call MEC, minimum effective concentration, to check it. Yes. So these are the advantages of the OPA and glutaraldehyde. We have less irritating. Of course, that's the good news. To the skin and respiratory system. No need for activation before use. Yes, of course. That is one good thing about the OPA. In the past, we were having a basin, but now we have machines, Astra T, called, an Astra T machine that, yeah, so you are going to see some of these things when you go to the field. Don't worry. Broader antimicrobial activity, it's able to kill a lot of bacteria. That's a good thing. And then also stains, proteins, making it easier to detect residue. And that is what it means. Remember, we're talking about gram positive and gram negative when the stain is used. So it has that kind of property. More stable than glutaraldehyde. Hooray, that's the good news. It has more, stable. It doesn't get easily diluted, and it is able to give you credible, results over time of the 14 days than others. Yes. All right. Yeah. Let's continue to the next slide, Director. Yes. Then we come to the usage. Then we come to the usage. Sorry. We come to the usage and safety considerations. Like glutaraldehyde, proper rinsing is essential. You have to rinse, guys. We are talking about this. You have to rinse, to be sure that it is well clear. Any residue is washed away. Remember, we don't use the word clean in this area. The word clean is used in the decontamination. So we use the word rinse. Rinse. The word clean, when you become professionals, once you use the word clean in the prep and pack area or the sterilization area, people begin to look at you because that word should not be used at all. We don't clean. We only have to inspect. If something is soiled, bloody, it goes back to the decontamination area. You follow the manufacturer's guidelines on how to use the chemical by testing, it to make sure that the concentration is there in the required amount to make sure that we are able to, high level disinfect our instrument. Must be discarded if it fails. Now, if you are going to use it for 14 days, as I said already, it is not by, the chemical should be there for 14 days and it was just changed yesterday. A new one was just put in yesterday. So today is fine. No, there is nothing like that. As I said, you don't know what happened. Maybe somebody is trying to sabotage you or sabotage the department by diluting it overnight or in the day, anyhow, sneak. So each time you want to use it, you must test it to make sure that it is working. It is good. Thank you. Next slide, please. Yes. So comparison of high-level disinfectants. We have glutaraldehyde and then the autoformaldehyde. We see the advantages over the effective against bacteria, viruses, fungi. That is the glutaraldehyde. And of course, as you can see, the autoformaldehyde also shortcut as OPA. That is also very effective against bacteria, viruses, and of course fungi, and then microbacteria, etc., and also effective for heat-sensitive and heat-sensitive devices. But the advantage with the OPA is that it is, of course, less irritating. no activation is required. No activation is required, just the OPA. You see, because activation is not required, that's why it comes by itself. As I said, the glutaraldehyde is most often found with found inside other formulations. For example, alcohol. When you go to the field, you see, these kind of things. Strong irritant, requires activation and high ventilation. For ventilation, it is needed for all of them. As I said, you need a very good level of ventilation to be able and the ventilation is 10 air exchanges per hour. Remember we talked about that. 10 air exchanges, per hour. We talk about that. Okay. Next slide, please. So this is the summary for the OPA. Just give me a moment, guys. Just a moment. Let me use the bigger screen here. I'm coming. It's 6, 7, 3, 7, 7, 4. Okay. Yeah. Let's continue now. Okay. Yeah. So both glutathione and OPA are effective high-level disinfectants, but the choice is, depends on the safety, consideration. The instrument, the medical device that we are going to process must also say what is the best. It can easily mention, some of the things that are required or the chemicals that is the best for it. Now let's go to the summary. Solution is compatible with a wide range of endoscopes. Yes, OPA, trust me, it is widely used for a lot of scopes. Gastroscope, colonoscope, bronchoscope, a lot of them, wide range, requires no activation. Yeah, that's the good thing. For example, alcohol needs activation. There must be an activator, but for the OPA, does not need activation. You just pour it and there it goes. 14-day reuse life. Yes, you remember that I was, talking about 14 to 28 days. The 14 days is popularly, it's very popular, accepted, even though the claim can be given as 28, but the manufacturers are almost always very specific about the number of days. Yes, can be discarded down facility. Yeah, easily, we just put it away when we're using the manual method, but now machines, so the machines will, will just, flush it out. Does not have a sterile label claim. Unlike the glutaraldehyde that can lead to sterilization of after 10 hours soak time, the OPA has no sterilization claim. It has no sterilization claim. That is downside of it, and it's used for semi-critical. Now, next slide, please. Hydrogen peroxide and peracetic acid. Hydrogen peroxide and peracetic acid. Hydrogen peroxide, normally 59% concentration is the one we use, the hospitals. But the one that we buy from the shop, I think it's just about 2% concentration. People buy it, for use for home, like topical, like, mouth areas. Now, hydrogen peroxide is a broad spectrum, high level disinfectant available in a different concentration. It is effective against a wide range of microorganisms, including bacteria, virus, etc. This hydrogen peroxide is a sterilant that sometimes used even in some machines. There is a machine called a trophone that are used for probes. When you look at the sterilant for the trophon, you see that hydrogen, peroxide is part of. I think it's about 35% of that. Then when you come to low temperature sterilization, the cap for Steris Vipro machine, that's about 59% or so, concentration. So hydrogen peroxide itself, is used and can be very, very effective. It is effective against a wide range, as I said already. Key properties: functions as a powerful oxidator. Remember, I said when we get to chapter 14, high temperature sterilization or sterilization, we are going to hear about oxidation and alkylation. Oxidation and alkylation. Yeah. So it is an oxidator, which attacks breaking down the microbial cell structure. Remember the alkylation, which we talk about when I said when we come to the ethylene oxide, we are going to look at how it affects the metabolism of a cell or an organism and destroys it. Yeah, so this also has that. Available in various concentrations with higher, concentrations, potentially serving as a sterilant. Oh, you see? Yes. And this is what I said, that you are going to see them in higher concentrations. For example, Ceres low temperature sterilization Vipro has 59% concentration of hydrogen peroxide. And then there is a machine called the trophon. The trophon 2, the latest has, I think 35 or 36, I think 35. Yeah, concentration of hydrogen peroxide in higher concentration. So it's very, very effective. And that's a very good news that we have. Requires regular MEC testing to ensure continued effectiveness. Remember, if it is going to be used in a machine, there's nothing of a MEC. Like if I say machine, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm talking about, let's say, a sterilizer, like the sterilist doesn't know. But if it is a machine that it can be opened and checked, yes, it can, or basin, so it can be done. But those that serve as sterilant used in, like, for example, low temperature sterilizers, there is no place for you to open it and check it. Once it is there, the machine will detect that it is active, not expired, and then it will just take the quantity it needs, to do its sterilization job. Yes. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is the summary over here. You can see hydrogen peroxide, broad spectrum, actually kills bacteria and viruses, as we said that already. And then norovirus and then rota virus, RSVD. The norovirus, I think last month we heard about the norovirus, spread in the US. I don't know if you listen to the news. When you listen to news, you hear, most of these things. And then the TB, etc., can be used as a sterilant in the right concentration, yes. When the concentration is very high, it can also be used as a sterilant. Corrosive to some materials, and of course, disinfection of hard and soft, surfaces can also be used for that as well. So that's the good news. Next slide, please. Let's come to the parasitic acid. Well, I think I want to hear the voice of a student now. Any contribution? Someone wants to read this?
I'll take it.
Okay.
Can I go ahead?
Sure, why not? Yeah.
Yeah, a parasitic acid. Parasitic acid is a high-level disinfectant and sterilant that works rapidly, achieving disinfection in 5 minutes at room temperature. It is commonly used in automated endoscopic processor, that is AER, for endoscope sterilization and disinfection.
Yes, correct.
Moving on to the key properties.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Moving to the key properties of. Okay.
Hold on. There is this machine that for now you don't know. Olympus OER. In a city hospitals in New York, in the city hospital in New York, they use alcohol. But when you go to upstate New York, interestingly, they use parasitic acid, which the manufacturer also has validated that it can be used. Now, so I actually had the privilege to see how that machine works using alcohol and also using peracetic acid because I work in upstate. Also, till January, this year, the system educator overseeing 4 hospitals and 8 clinics, very huge, very, busy. So the peracetic acid, of course, can be used in ARs. It's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Now, let's go to the key properties. The radar. I guess that is tally, right? Yeah, right.
The key properties of peracetic acid. It functions as a strong oxidizer, disrupting microbial cell function.
I like that. I
Second
like
point,
that. Oxidation. Again, chapter 14 or so. Alkylation, oxidation. When we're going to talk about ozone, well, ozone, I think, is taken out from the 9th edition. So we are going to see ethylene oxide, hydrogen peroxide, and that's what we are going to hear about this oxidation and alkylation. We are going to meet it more when we get there. Continue.
Second point, compatible with many materials, making it useful for laryngoscope blades, endoscopes, and heat-sensitive instruments.
Yeah.
Some formulations are specifically designed for AERs where they
Okay,
act
the
as
AER,
sterilant.
sure. Very good. Of course, I saw that in upstate. Upstate New York. By the AER, you mean automated endoscope reprocessor. Actually, that's what automated endoscope reprocessors. So that is the name. It's just like a shortcut. But in the field, just say AER. Nobody has the time to, mention the full name. So it's a machine. Instead of manual disinfection, we put it into a machine, and then the chemical is there. You check the make, of course. You check the make each time of use, and then you start the cycle, and then it will. What good thing is that it will do cleaning again. The machine is designed to do cleaning again. After the cleaning in the decontamination room, it will do cleaning again. Then from there, then it comes to the disinfection phase. Yeah, that machine AER is very, very good. You connect some tubes, to it in the machine, and then it will flash through, clean it, and then, it's very, very good. You are going to see that. I can't wait for you guys to go to the field and see all these machines, how machines are doing the work for us. But the human judgment is also very, very critical. Machines can never replace human judgment. Remember, machines can fail. Yes. Okay, continue.
Requires careful handling as it can be corrosive to some metals and materials.
Of course, clearly. Yes, I think we have made this one everywhere. All these chemicals require good and safe handling. Yeah. All right. Next slide, please. We are gradually getting to the end. Don't worry, guys. I know it has been a marathon day. Advantages of peracetic acid. Yeah. Broad spectrum HLD, effective against wide range. Can be a sterilant, of course, we said that already. In the AERs, automated endoscope reprocessors. Rapid action, achieving a high level disinfection in as many as 5 minutes. Remember, we said the alcohol must remain in wet contact. So the alcohol and the peracetic acid, but remember, alcohol is not a high level disinfectant, remember. Yeah, but this one is a high level disinfectant. 5 minutes, and the job is done. Wow, that is incredible. Now, the disadvantages is that, it is environmental friendly, breaking down into water, oxygen, and acetic acid easily. Corrosion to some materials, but unfortunate. It can also cause irritation. But the good thing is that the use is that high-level disinfection of laryngoscope and then the endoscopes. And then sterilization in automated, endoscope pre-processors. Yes, sterilization in automated endoscope. So sterilization can be achieved in automated endoscope pre-process. That's a good news. All right. Next slide, please. So what you see on the screen is a summary. And again, the summary is user-friendly. I like to use that word. Or description, broad spectrum HLD, broad spectrum HLD. And also maybe used as a sterilant in the appropriate AR. And also compatible with many materials. And that's a very good thing. If sterilization can be achieved, oh, why not? That's a good thing, and that's a good news. And but it is corrosive. And remember, it is used on laryngoscope blades, endoscopes, and of course, other things that the manufacturer will tell you that it can be used for. All right, thank you. Next slide, please. So now there is a comparison here between hydrogen peroxide and parasitic acid. When you look at the effective bacteria, virus, fungi, that works for both. And then also broad spectrum HLD, environmental friendly. 5 minutes is done, is achieved. 5 minutes is achieved. 5 minutes is achieved for the parasitic acid. That's a very good news. Then when it comes to limitations, well, corrosive, but that applies to both, corrosive to some materials requires MEC testing. Corrosive requires compatibility checks, and of course, the potential. With the parasitic acid also, there is a MEC checking. We check the MEC in the machine in the AR. Yeah, you just lift. There is a lever or a door. You just lift it and then you get the chemical. So the MEC is also checked. Anyway, just to let you know if you don't see it over there. All right. Next slide, please. So both hydrogen peroxide and parasitic acid are effective oxidating disinfectants. You see, by oxidating, we said it attacks the cells, of bacteria. When it attacks the cells, it kills them. Remember, we talked about the bacterial cell that we said it has 3 major layers: the nucleus, cytoplasm, then the cell membrane. The nucleus, cytoplasm, then the cell membrane. And if it is able to destroy the cell, then of course the bacteria is dead. We talk about all that. Ensure proper usage, bacterial compatibility, and safety protocols. Now, the safety data sheet. When you start the field, you know what is the safety data sheet. In fact, it's not even difficult. I think some of the things we use at our homes even have a safety data sheet. Even the alcohol that we have, I think there should be something on it that tells you how to handle it, the uses, etc. So how to handle it, is there. It's very important to be able to go according to the manufacturer's information for use. Yeah, thank you. Next slide, please. Yeah. Okay, so ensuring effective disinfection through proper contact exposure and, of course, mechanical process. Now, there are some factors that make the disinfection process to be effective or ineffective. Contact, organic matter, very key. Now, we just learned that the parasitic acids require 5 minutes. Okay. So if you use 4 minutes, no. We saw that the glutaraldehyde, not the autoformaldehyde, we are talking about the glutaraldehyde, can lead to sterilization for 10 hours. So even if you soak the instrument in it for 9 hours, 58 minutes, no, the contact time is not reached. Just 2 minutes out of the 10 hours, no. So the 10 hours must be reached. So the contact. Now we use machines, no more the manual. Some of us started this career when it was more of the manual basin. You must make sure that if you're using the basin, let's assume that the machine is out of use and an instrument is needed. You must use high-level disinfection and there is a basin. You must make sure that the scope or whatever instrument is fully immersed. No part should bulge out of the chemical or the disinfectant. I'm talking about the contact, the importance of the contact. The importance of the contact. So the chemical must touch every part of the medical device, both inside and then the outside, for whatever should be achieved. Factors: improper handling. You must make sure that you handle, improper cleaning. Now, soil blocks. If it's not clean, it cannot be HLD. It cannot be sterilized. So cleaning is very key, paramount. Incomplete disassembly. If the instrument has to be disassembled, the flashing ports. By flashing ports, I'm referring to these scopes because some have the flashing ports, etc., and then the irrigation channel, etc. If those things, those buttons are not removed, then there is a problem. You must fully disassemble. Now, partial submersion. I just talk about that. Especially this happens, especially if you are using the manual kind of HLD. If the machine is down and you are using a basin just to put the scope in, and then you must make sure that the chemical is above every part of the scope. It must be fully submerged, completely submerged. Air bubbles in lumens. Those instruments that have lumens, when air bubbles are coming, it means that there's air. You must make sure that air bubbles are out completely. Then it means that the chemical can go to all other areas. So contact is very, very key. Contact is very, very key. And then exposure as well. Contact and exposure. Every part of the instrument must be exposed to the sterilant. To the high-level disinfectant. Thank you. Next slide, please. Exposure time. Exposure time, I even talked about that already when I said parasitic acid is 5 minutes, and if you expose it 4 minutes. And I also talk about the glutathione, 10 hours. So even if you soak it 9 hours, 58 minutes, no, it's not achieved. It's not achieved. You must go by the IFU, information for use. So the exposure time is very, very critical, guys. You must know cutting corners. Don't say, 2 hours out of, don't say 2 minutes out of 10 hours. The manufacturer knows. FDA, the FDA, check all this. Class 1, class 2, class 3, remember, they check all this. Validity, they did all this and they validated, yes, the 10 hours is needed. If 9 hours, 58 minutes is enough, then manufacturer will never say 10 hours. So please, even if it is 2 minutes, it's very, very critical, and follow it. There is the need for timer. We had a mock survey. As a matter of fact, there is a hospital, Queens, they had a mock survey before I went there. And then one of the findings was that they didn't have a timer. So Joint Commission, there is a body we call Joint Commission. They prefer to have a timer where you set it, because you can forget. When you overexpose them to, it can lead to damage, overexposure. So if it is 5 minutes, 5 minutes. It shouldn't be 10 minutes. If it is 10 hours, the 10 hours should not change to 11 hours. So timer is very, very important. Then IFU, follow the IFU as it says. Thank you. Next slide, please. Yes. Rinsing. Now, the rinsing is done to make sure that all residual or all residues of the chemical disinfectant is taken off. Use pure water for rinsing, and again, you must follow. Now, normally, the manufacturer information for use will tell you how to rinse it, and then the water to use to rinse it. Yes, the pure water is the best. Pure water is the best, because it is normally treated, clean, devoid of any other, contaminants. Yeah. Then the lumens, when we say the lumens, we are talking about the internal channels. Channel. there is something we call a scope body, but that one is used in the decontamination room to flush. Now, what happens is that the AER machine also has some connectors to the biopsy channel, to the flushing port, and those things, and they are able to flush, water through it to make sure that they are thoroughly clean. Yes. Next slide, please.
Sorry, I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, when you say pure water,
Yeah.
can it be a diluted water?
No, the pure water. Let me. In fact, this is a very good, question. By pure water, actually, let me carry you guys together. It looks like almost everyone here for now is from Ghana or something like that. Not the pure water thing that you're talking about. In fact, by the pure water, what it means is that we are talking about sterile, water or deionized water. I just didn't want to go into details. MEST, I think 105, which is the latest, talks about water, and we are talking about sterile water or deionized, water to rinse. Yeah, those things. Yeah, so that's what it means.
Or if I may say,
Okay, thank you.
is it the distilled water?
Sorry, you said?
Is it distilled water?
Yeah, distilled water is good because it is vaporized water, which has no contaminants. So that's fine. But that is not a trouble because that is about the facilities. They will take that responsibility and connect everything already. So that's not, Distilled water is vaporized water, which is devoid of contaminants. So that's also fine. But in the healthcare, yes, that is done by the facilities. So they connect their things and they check those things anyway. Yeah, so that is not your trouble anyway. Yeah. Have I answered your question?
Sure,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. So actually, when you go to the healthcare, you are not going to hear about distilled water, you are going to hear about deionized water, deionized or sterile water. These are the two terms that you are going to hear. But that is the explanation. Yeah. Okay. Have I jumped over something? Let me see. Yeah. Yeah. So we call something thermal disinfection. Washer disinfectors have a thermal disinfection. In fact, the washers that we have during the rinsing stage, the temperature, some machines, Sterile Amsco machines normally get to 192 degrees Fahrenheit. But getting machines sometimes get to about 205 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, at that point, we call it thermal disinfection. Anytime you hear the word thermal, it's about heat. Remember, we learned about thermophils bacteria. I thought that chapter and talk about the psychophils, the mesophil, and the thermophil. Anytime you hear the word thermo, thermodynamics is about heat. So when we say thermal, we're talking about using heat to kill bacteria. And disinfectors, washer disinfectors, during the rinsing stage, the final rinsing stage, they are programmed to reach that temperature. And as I said, when you go to especially the city hospitals where they use, Steris, for the AMSCO, you'll be seeing 192, and you remember that, I said it. But when you use, in fact, we have Castle, we have Getting. Castle is no more popular. Getting is in some hospital. You are going to see about 205 degrees Fahrenheit. That can also kill bacteria. And that we call that the thermal disinfection. That is using heat, water heat to kill bacteria. The cleaning phase, the disinfection phase, the drying phase. Yes, so we have the cleaning phase, the drying phase. These washers have the cleaning phase when you put in the instrument, the clean. The first stage normally is called the wetting stage, where cold water is injected through the arms onto the instrument. The reason is to avoid what we call coagulation, where fat hardens. Then after that, the next stage is the washing stage itself, the clean stage, where enzymatic detergent formulated with amylase, lipase, and protease, formulated to come in to wash. This time, the water is warm. Temperature of about 110 degrees Fahrenheit in order to be able to activate the enzymes in the washing or in the enzymatic detergent. When it is above the 110, getting to about 120, 130, 150, it deactivates. Then after that is the rinsing stage. Well, based on the instrument you have in it, you can have what we call the milking stage or the instrument milk stage. But orthopedic instruments don't have that. I mean, it's not allowed, because of mainly the implants. So if it's a regular instrument cycle, then we also have the lubrication, cycle. Then after that, the rinsing stage, comes in, and blah, blah, then the drying phase comes in. So basically, this is how this, machines, work. This is how they work. Any questions about that as well? Any questions about this? Okay, next slide, please. Yes. So that is the thermal disinfection. That's the thermal. I was talking about the instruments, disinfectants. We also have cat washers, machines, backwash, the cats. So thermal disinfection is defined over there. The use of heat to reduce, the amount of microorganisms, including spore. Well, of course, the temperature of 192, I'm talking about sterile Amsco machines, getting 205, are not scientifically enough for the spore, the Geobacillus stereothermophilus. That's the spore. When you come to chapter 14, low temperature 13 and 14, you'll be hearing this word, Geobacillus stereothermophilus. That's the spore that we use. That temperature of 192, 205 is not enough to kill the spore. Yes, so the spore is not dead. But other ones, especially those at the vegetative stage, one touch, it will finish there. One touch, it will finish there. Next slide, please. Yeah. So we have a low temperature thermal sterilizer. Normally, I jump over this because it is still about the thermal disinfection, heat. The pasteurizers use water temperatures between 150 to 170 degrees Fahrenheit. A exposure time of 30 minutes. Now, some hospitals have this. They look, well, you don't even know ultrasonic machine for now, so I don't even have to mention it. So they are, machines that also we use. But they generate heat more than the machine we call the ultrasonic machine. The ultrasonic machine, you might have met it. No, I think you are now going to meet it somewhere along the line, and then we'll let you know what it does, cavitation, etc. Yeah, so the temperature, based on the machines that we actually use for the washing itself, the big ones, they range to up to 192 amsco, and then getting about 205. Yeah, the pasteurizers have that range. Yeah, next slide, please. Yes, so we have automated endoscope reprocessors, as I said. We use them for flexible scopes, and then they are very helpful in the sense that reduce exposure to, I mean, they're enclosed. Once you put them in the machine, you close the lid, the top on it, they are sealed. So you are not going to inhale or you are not going to get yourself exposed to the chemical. After the washing is done, first of all, it will clean, and then it will disinfect, and then it will rinse. Then, of course, good news. It means that you have less exposure, but then you still have to wear gloves anyway to handle it because your hands are dirty, and then you are taking this, which is HLD. So you don't have to, recontaminate it anyway. Improves quality assurance by ensuring consistent disinfection cycles. And then documents. Now, they give us a printout, just like you go to the shopping mall or the shop, you buy something, then they give you like the printout. This also, gives you a printout, where you read it, they'll show you, they will guide you. I mean, if you meet any of us anywhere, we'll guide you how to analyze. Then you put your initial on it that yes, based on the receipt, you have affirmed that the process is complete and it's successful. Errors can happen when there is an error. When you open the door where the chemicals are, there are various error codes, and then you can do your own troubleshooting. If after the troubleshooting and something is not well, then you contact the manufacturer, their customer service line, for help. Thank you. Next slide, please. Yes. This is how AR look like. This one looks like System 1E. I mean, regardless, it is AR. They're all AR, whether it is System 1E, Olympus, AR Pro, whatever, they're all automated. So that's how they look like. It is very interesting how they look like. Yeah, so you can see the instrument coil in it at the right-hand section, coil in it. And then in the middle, you see some, like screen, a very big screen where, start, stop, blah, 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 open late, those things are. That is how it looks like. Yes. So it's after the decontamination that they get into this machine. Thank you. Next slide. Quality assurance testing for HLD. We have talked about most of these things already, but then here it's a summary, which I like so much. We talk about the MEC testing, minimum effective concentration testing. Here, what you must know is that each time that the machine is going to be used and engaged to process an instrument, it has to be not daily. This one is not daily. It is each time. Then chemical indicators. The chemical indicators, that is what I said, they are chemical impregnated. Remember, I used this word. They are chemically impregnated, card. I use card, but they are test strip, because if I say a test strip, you may not know what it is now, because you have just not, seen it before. It's a very small card. So let me use that description, for you to see, picture it. It's a very skinny card, with about half of it chemically impregnated. So you hold the other part that is not chemically impregnated, hold it, and then dip the area that is chemically impregnated into the chemical. Yeah, and then whether it is, with the alcohol, the AR Pro, Olympus AR Pro, it is 60 minutes. But with the parasitic acid, that I got, familiar with, that one is just 5 seconds, 5 seconds, but the alcohol is 60 minutes. Regardless, the manufacturer will tell you, that's the make. You must be able to read it. The chemical indicator must change to what the manufacturer is saying for you to affirm that, yes, it has been done and it has passed. Yes. Okay, let's continue, please. Yes, this is an example of the test strip. As you can see, this is the example. That's the bottle. Some of this bottle lasts for 90 days. The parasitic acid one, I think, is 180. That's 6 months, but the alcohol is 90 days. Regardless, the manufacturer will tell you now. You see the test strip. That's what I mean by a skinny card when I was talking about card. So the card, that test strip, you see, it is divided into two. The white section that is facing us, and then the other part. The other part, so you hold the white section. Then the other part, that is the chemical impregnated area. That is the part that you must dip into the chemical. Yes, that's how it appears. Yeah, so the MEC testing is very, very important. Yeah, you must wear PPE, before, like gloves, before you handle all this. Thank you. Next slide, please. Yes. So this is like a table. The MEC hospitals have designed. I told you that there is a form. If you remember, I told you that there is a form that is designed for your name, the date, all those things. So this is an example. You see the date, solution was open, the date, I mean, it can be redesigned the way you want it, but at least the information here, is very, very critical. The date it was open, the date solution expires, date test strip was done, a test date, the test time, pass or fail. These are the basic. It must include this. So you can design your own form, but this kind of information is required or needed on the form. That so each time, if an instrument is going to be processed 10 times a day, it means that this form has to be filled 10 times a day. Or if an instrument, let's say scope, expires and has to be reprocessed, not used on the patient yet, but it is there in the storage cabinet or the scope cabinet and expires. This is vary. When we started, it was 1 month. Then they changed it to 2 weeks, then to 1 week, changed again to 2 weeks, and now back to 1 week. So just follow whatever they tell you when you go to the field. Yeah. Okay. Next slide, please. Any questions? Please feel free and let me know. I know that the time is very advanced, so you may not be willing to ask questions, but at least now. So documentation, ensuring traceability and compliance. Yes, we keep the record. Remember, I even said, I think before you went on break, right, that may God forbid if a patient sues, legal action. That's one. And not only that, how many court cases do we have? Hospital is not, something that is common, very seldom. But regardless, we should be able to also trace that, okay, have they been disinfected between patients, patient A, patient B? So we can trace. We can also trace it back to a particular patient because we record the MRI number, medical records number. We record it with it. So we can trace that, okay, on September 1st, 2024, scope with serial number, blah, 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 was processed in this machine OER by this technician, was used on this patient. We can trace it. That's what it means by traceability. Yes. So the traceability is very important, and it's also meant to prove that it has also been disinfected among users. Okay. Next. Okay. Yes. So and of course, those are the things that we have on the form that you saw already. The HLD information, the activation date, or the dilution date, whatever. And then the exposure time and temperature well. That one is during, the soaking. For example, the OPA, for example, we take the temperature, OPA, we take the temperature. And then the date and time you record, and then the technician, I said that, the technician who process it, and then the MEC result, and then if there is any note. So that's what is included. Next slide, please. Conclusion. Importance of pre-cleaning. Yes. So we are talking about organic matter. Remember, we met organic matter a lot into this class. So the cleaning, importance of precision in disinfection. Now, cleaning is very, very important, guys. For you to achieve high-level disinfection and sterilization, pre-cleaning must be very thorough. Now, selecting the correct disinfectant, we talk about it. If the instrument has knowledge with the mucous membrane, then at a minimum, high-level disinfection. So it means that you are not going to use quaternary ammonium compound, phenolic alcohol, no, but you are going to likely use peracetic acid. You are going to use glutaldehyde, autophthaldehyde. Yes. If it's a pressure curve, then maybe alcohol, which is intermediate, is good. So these are the things that we talk about today. Very interesting class today, I believe. The proper preparation of items. You must disassemble. Some scopes have flashing channel, biopsy channel, etc., and they have some knobs when you put them, before you put them into the machine, or if it's a manual, you must detach all those things so that the chemical will go in and rinse thoroughly. And the IFU, you can't ignore it. You can't ignore the IFU, information for use, and the PPE, the gloves, etc., goggles, because we are not talking about the decontamination process, we are talking about the HLD, Google. Goggles. Well, not Google. When I say Google, it might sound like I'm talking about the browser. I'm talking about the Google. I shield, I mean. Yes. And then also, you must make sure that you keep a very good documentation or records for all the process. Next slide, please, if there is. Now, assurance, quality assurance. Of course, your conclusion over here. Now, challenges of disinfection, well, it can be very complex. Disinfection is more complex than it appears, especially when you are coming to operate these machines, and then the role of central service technicians. If you are not able to select the right one, that is a problem. So the correct chemical. And then also attention and knowledge. You can never be callous. No. Remember, you are dealing with human beings. So you must follow the right procedures. And you must update your knowledge all the time. All right. Is there a next slide to this?
No, that's all. No, that is
thank you
all.
very much. All right. Let me use about 3 minutes to make a summary. So we started the class today by talking about Spalding classification, where we said medical devices are categorized, into 3 based on the risk of infection and how they are used. We have the critical, semi-critical, and then the non-critical. The critical, they have knowledge of the structural, and that is the bloodstream, and then the vascular system. They must be sterilized. It's a must. Non-negotiable. Now, there are also some instruments that have knowledge of the mucous membrane, and we said these are the openings on the human body: mouth, nose, ears, vagina, anus. Now, instruments that go into these areas must minimum HLD, but if the IF says they can be sterilized, hooray, that's the good news. But minimum HLD. Then you have the non-critical, like those that come into the contact with the intact skin, like the stethoscopes, then the pressure cuff. I remember I said, when I go to my PCP and I dress very well executive, I can even be in my dress shirt and they just roll over, the pressure cuff around my arm. So the pressure cuff is not even touching my skin. They don't need any high-level disinfection or sterilization. The normal wiping with alcohol pad is enough for that. Then we talk about the chemicals or the disinfectants in 3 categories: low, intermediate, and high. We look at quaternary ammonium compound, housekeeping. We look at alcohol. Alcohol is an ethyl and isopropyl. Now, I didn't talk about ethyl because basically you are not going to see that much in SPD or healthcare. You are going to see the isopropyl more. Then the isopropyl, I talk about the 70% concentration and 90% concentration. I said the good news is that, if we want to kill bacteria, then why not go for the 90? But we said that science has shown that water, higher concentration, 30% of water concentration is needed to carry the chemicals into the cells of bacteria. Therefore, the 70% concentration of isopropyl is better than the 90% concentration of it. Then we also talk about phenolics, which I said, I try to liken it to pastilles. And I said, well, if phenolics is used to mop on the ground, tomorrow when you use a damp mop, it will activate. That is why we don't use it. And remember, we said soap is not used. Then we talk about glutaraldehyde. Chlorine. We said, well, it is used to treat even water. We talk about that. Then we talk about the iodophos. But iodophos, we talk about the iodine. And we said, that's when I said, when you become a certified surgical technologist, you are going to see that a lot because sometimes they use it to prepare. Not sometimes. That's what the book says they use it. of the surgical site to prepare before the invasive procedure. Then we move on to the high-level disinfectant. We began with glutaraldehyde. I said normally glutaraldehydes are not on their own, but they are in other formulations with other. And so I use alcohol as an example. Now, the good news is that it can lead to sterilization by at least 10 hours. Soak time, and this was a time somebody, I think, title, right? Asked a question about the soak time, 10 hours. Then we move on to OPA, autoformaldehydes. We said that one, there is no dilution. It is very good. And we went on to talk about the parasitic acid, and we also talk about the hydrogen peroxide. The hydrogen peroxide, we said, is very effective, and some are even used in sterilant forms like the trophone and also the AMSCO. So with this, I've provided a summary of what we did today. Any questions for me, please? I know I rushed with the summary because I know time is, fast approaching, and I didn't even want to keep you up to this point. I know sometimes boredom sets in when students are kept too much in class. Any questions? All right. If no questions, then over. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I think he said
no. I said no question.
No question. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now I transfer everything to our director. Do you have anything for us, director?